Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining us at Cartoon Crossroads Columbus. What is it? CartoonCrossroadsColumbus.org. That's the website. And this is the panel about making communities that feel seen, because what we're going to be talking about today, and actually I should pull it up. There it is. We'll be talking about this thing called the CXC Discord and what came out of the CXC Discord. There we go. Which looked like this last couple of years. Because if you remember the last few years, they've been a blur and they've been a mess, but festivals were kind of in limbo. We had to figure out, oh, by the way, my name is Jersey Jost. I'm the former director of CXC. It was the interim executive director. And so when I took that job, we were in the pandemic, and so we had to figure out how do you do a virtual festival. And one of the ways that we achieved it was leaning on this technology called Discord. We're to be talking about the community that formed there and the community that emigrated and became something much bigger. Before we get started, Cartoon Crossroads Columbus acknowledges that the ancient ancestors of the Eastern Woodlands tribes, now referred to as the Adena and Hopewell cultures, inhabited the land we know as Ohio. Their descendants include the living nations of the Shawnee, Miami, Wyandot, Delaware, and Seneca Cayuga. And we honor and respect the diverse indigenous peoples connected to this place where we gather. And we also need to thank our sponsors, including the Greater Columbus Arts Council, the Ohio Arts Council, White Castle, and UBS. And I introduced myself, so now we'll introduce the panel. And then I'm going to ask you, we're also broadcasting this on Discord. So I'm going to be asking the folks on Discord to also interact in this way. And then we're going to take it back to the panel. So first, let's introduce the panel. Who do we have here?
My name is Aaron Polk. I am a cartoonist and colorist based out of Michigan. And I also really enjoy taking software and using it for its not intended purposes.
Yeah.
All right. My name is Suzanne Ray. I am a writer and a muralist based out of Indiana. And I just hang out, I guess.
You like dogs.
I love dogs.
You do. Hi, I'm Connie Giovaninis. I'm a cartoonist and a master's in astronomy, based in Santiago, Chile. Came all the way here. And that's it. I like science and planners and fountain pens.
Hi, I'm Rodrigo Vargas. I'm also a cartoonist and also a writer. And also I'm a master's of fine arts.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I also live in Chile. I'm Connie's partner. And I like music and I like punk rock and cookies.
And cookies.
Yeah, and cookies. And it's awesome to be in the same space as all of you today, but you know, greater accessibility. We have Brandon here. Oh, I gotta plug in my computer. Brandon, could you introduce yourself while I get my power hooked up?
Yes, absolutely. Also, I really do wish I was there. But my name is Brandon. I'm a cartoonist, also based in Michigan. I make a webcomic called Autumn Rain and the Crown of Fire. Yeah, and the Discord that we created has been like basically a really huge boon in my life. So I'm happy I can be here in some capacity, even if I can't be there in person today.
It's awesome to have you here. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna take 2 minutes, 120 seconds. And I'd like you to turn to somebody nearby and just top of the head, first things you think about. When I ask you, what does a supportive community, online or otherwise, look like? And discuss this amongst yourselves for 2 minutes. And everybody in the Discord, please do the same. And we'll come back and talk to the panelists.
What's a community?
You got the
Susie?
homework. Want to talk about it? Like near the mic?
Yeah.
We can
I think
have
it's
the
a lot.
discussion right here on the mic.
I think it's a lot about like that commonality, but also like
Yeah,
being
took it away from the mic.
Yeah.
safe and black art. And
Close to the mic.
um,
Yeah.
not
I don't remember the question.
What is a supportive community online or otherwise look like?
It looks like
necessarily.
like a song.
Yeah, like a space where everyone is allowed to participate.
And has like at least the same options.
Like
At
this.
least the same
Yeah.
options. And there's also a community where leadership is shared
Yeah.
and not taken like
So-
by one or just a specific group of people with the decisions. With no,
Yeah, they're all like taken by the group.
as a, yeah, as a group.
Very anarchist.
Yeah,
Community is also like,
yeah.
I think a large part of it is about trust. Like innate trust in there. Like
There's a
even if
reason
they're
why
not
Okay, about 5
we
seconds.
go
particularly
to
well.
that kind of politics.
That is right.
And that's time.
Yeah.
Thank you all for diving in the way you did. That was awesome. I mean, I know it's not the easiest thing in the world, and it's weird to come to these in-person festivals where we feel like we're in community, but we're also kind of alone because it's weird to like sit next to somebody and just introduce yourself, which we're going to talk about when we talk about Discord. But now let's turn it over to the panel, and I will just, Connie and Rodrigo, what are some of the things that came up as you were talking to each other?
So, do you want to start, Connie? Because I don't remember how to start.
I mean, talking about is this or do I have to like learn about how supported communities should feel like something that's horizontal? I came up to us. What we came up with was the idea that everyone in the community should have like the same right to participate, and not feel like there's someone on top and you're just like hanging around, but that everyone can participate in the taking of decisions and in the conversation at large. And
Yeah, like
about
where
it.
decisions are made by discussion and talking and relationships between everyone involved in the process of the group itself.
Like everyone is welcome to give their opinion, to share their thoughts, and when it's time to take decisions, everyone's allowed to participate in that decision making, basically.
So, Susie and Aaron, what did you?
Yeah. Aaron had most of the good thoughts, so I'll
No.
let him share. But
No.
my main contribution was they're genuinely welcoming and friendly, and so there isn't any like secret agenda or like I'm going to be nice to them outwardly, but inwardly I have these harbored feelings. There's just a genuine level of like we want to build each other up.
Yeah. Yeah, it's that, and also like an innate sense of trust. Like even if you don't know each other very well, if you have some kind of commonality, some kind of common thread that goes throughout your community, it does help by like building up on a foundation of trust and like creating an environment where people can be their genuine selves and not having to do performance or like hiding parts of their identity is huge in terms of like a safe and trusting community.
Brandon, I wonder if you could share some things that occurred to you and maybe even like some of your experiences as you joined this community on the CXC Discord and later on the Comics Discord.
So like I agree with, first of all, everything that was said. And I think an important note within that in terms of creating a space where people can feel like fully themselves and feel open and not feel like, pushed or pulled in this direction or that. To the effect and to the note of there not being like a secret agenda or anything like that, and that fundamental trust. There is. Sorry, I just got distracted by a little fly. So there is just a drive to not compete with one another. Like nobody is trying to outdo or outshine the other. Like we all are just like here participating within the community, wanting to see each other succeed and wanting to see each other win and not seeing those wins as like an obstacle or anything like that. And I think that especially in terms of like an art community and a comics community, that's really important because I always feel like no matter how big comics gets, which I feel like it's still not as big as they should be, maybe, it's still going to be a small community, right? And it's going to be very, very important to like be kind and whatever space I would take up within any of these communities, I would also want other people to have that space as well. And I think it's something that like there's enough room at the table for everybody to eat is something that I always like to say. And I feel like for CXC, that Discord and then the Comics Discord, it was mentioned earlier, the accessibility of this. Like 3 or 4 years ago, I wouldn't be able to do this, right? And CXC is something that I've always physically wanted to attend, but just couldn't. But having that Discord and being able to engage and interact with the community in this way has sort of allowed me to like expand how I think about community. And I think in a very passive way, it's expanded how a lot of people within the comic space thinks about and sort of like builds on the idea of community. That was very long-winded, my bad.
Well, I mean, so I'm hearing a lot of things that like sound terrific, right? Like trust, openness, what did you say? Horizontal, very horizontal.
Yeah,
like
like
it's not hierarchical.
Yeah.
That's wonderful, but how do you do it? So one of the things that I observed when I was watching you all interact on the Discord was, in particular, Connie and Rodrigo, the way you showed up set a tone. Because we did events. I don't know how many, maybe you're watching the Discord events last year? A couple of us. So we did Zoom programming, like the traditional kind of thing everybody was doing, but then we also had like what we were calling like little pop-up events for the exhibitors in the Discord. And we were really encouraging them to be creative and playful and don't be too formal and stuffy about it. And so you show up with this game show called Funny T-Shirts.
It's not called Funny T-shirts.
It is now.
It is now.
And I mean, if you could describe what you were doing, and I'm curious, like the way all of you like sort of jumped in with this spirit of play, but we'll start with the game show that you did first, and we can expand out on that if you could, Connie.
Yeah. So we were just, I guess all of us were adjusting to the idea of doing like online conventions, and because everyone was like, oh, we'll put an online storefront and we'll maybe do like the big talks, like the keynotes over YouTube or over Zoom, etc. But what CXC really did really well, which I think is what set them apart from all the other virtual conventions we attended, is that they set up this Discord channel where it was easier to actually chat with people at the show, with other exhibitors, etc. So we had these pop-up shows that Jersey mentioned that it was like, you can have an hour to stream on the channel. And so we didn't really have, because we were like, maybe it's not that interesting to sit down and watch a talk, because being the year 2020, everyone was doing that at work, at school, and then going to a comic convention, which is supposed to be like a fun break from things. Be like, oh, you're going to sit down and watch another talk. We thought it was too much. So we decided to take a different approach and started playing Funny T-Shirts, which is this game where people can chip in and just like draw funny pictures and then write slogans, and you match them up. Do you have the?
I think I have some footage of the end of the Funny T-Shirts. So just keep going. I got the volume off.
There's this laughing.
Yeah, there's Brandon and Connie and Rodrigo, and I grabbed the screen so we could see what some of the designs were.
So it was just, so we were like draw our own T-shirts and make fun stuff, but also since everyone can join the game from their computer or phone, we had everyone who was watching could actually join in and vote on the T-shirts. I actually got one printed, so I'm wearing my own T-shirt right now.
This is a serious shirt for serious people.
Yeah, and then you choose like, so it's a game that people will use like for parties. But we thought it was like a nice little icebreaker, so we could just meet people and play games. Because the point of us for comic conventions, like, sure, you want to promote your work and you want to sell your comics, which is all fine and good. But also there's this sense of like, when we are at in-person shows, we want to see people and just have a fun time and share and make friends. So we kind of try new ways to do that, and everyone jumped on the Funny T-shirts bandwagon. And it started at this whole thing, I guess, in a way.
Yeah, so there's a cultural divide that happens when you're going online. It's really hard, like to make
Close the
to
gap.
close that gap, right?
Mhm.
Because everyone reacts and everyone talks differently online, and everyone behaves differently, um, and it feels kind of cheap to go ahead and be like, please buy my comic, buy my comic, buy my comic, because that's a very unilateral relationship that you're building with people.
Yeah.
In shows, at least you get to dialogue, you get to talk with the people.
Yeah,
You're-
like, are you enjoying the show?
like you can be like, oh man, I love your shirt, and we've seen so many cool shirts recently, like
Yes.
walking around, and you get to like recognize yourself in the other. But online, it's very hard to make that connection, right?
Yeah, because you're oftentimes not really seeing the other person as a person, like they're a text box. Like,
exactly.
yeah, it's just another end that like gives you information.
But one of the things that we do, like actually try to do with Connie, is building that relationship with the people that reads our comic, right? That's it, like for real, like coming here, we're from Chile, so coming here is a lot of money, it's a lot of expenses you have to pay, and we never make that money back. It's impossible, right?
We can break even on that.
We can break even, but we do get an extra payment when we build those relationships and see the new people and meet new people. And each year that we come, we see people coming back and being like, oh yeah, we met you guys in 2018, or I met you, Rodrigo, in 2017, and you start building that, and that's money is great, but that one's also very fulfilling.
Money is great.
It is nice to be able to eat.
Yes, it is nice to be able to eat, but also it's very nice to be able to like build like a small friendship with people from around the world,
Yeah.
and the chance to take the game. It wasn't actually funny T-shirts. We made like this game, the variety show. It
Oh,
was
yeah.
the walk into the variety show. We even made a song for starting and for closing. We tried to mix everything that we could. Like we invited Brandon. The previous year we invited Kat Fajardo, which is a very dear friend of us, and we just wanted to have fun with the people in the same way that we will enjoy being on a table.
Yeah. And we also like invited everyone to chip in. Like we weren't just talking, it was like you can comment in the chat and we will read them.
Yeah.
So we were like, it was an active participation with the audience and not just like, I'm going to sit here and tell you things. P.S. buy my book. It rules. So that was cool. That was pretty much.
Yeah.
Okay,
Like,
but so I there was leadership in the way you were behaving.
Yes.
I feel like you were presenting an image of this is how we interact here, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Now another question, because I know you also were, all four of you, and including Brandon, were very active the entire weekend long.
Mhm.
Aaron, like you, I think you more than anybody, like you were like
I had my desktop set up, and then I had my laptop set up next to that desktop, and then I had my tablet set up on the other side, and then I had my phone. All of them had Discord going, and all of them were running different events
Good,
at
right?
once. And it was like that for 4 days.
and then you became a super villain.
No, that happened before.
But
It just like solidified my plans.
no, but what I want to ask next, and I want the whole panel to weigh in on this, is that this all sounds great, but it sounds like there's a lot of effort, and you have comics to make, and you have jobs to do. So, starting with Aaron, how? Because like, if I'm sitting in the audience, I'm thinking like, oh, I'd love to join a community, and I'm going to put a link to the comics Discord up in a second. But that sounds great. But man, I've got 25 other things to do, right? Like I am really, really bad at Facebook. Facebook it's really hard for me to keep up with. And people will say like, well, we posted it, 3 weeks ago. I'm like, I don't even know, So the fact that you all forged this really meaningful relationship with one another, it has to take time. So how do you manage that? Start with Aaron.
Well, I mean, I think it requires a little bit of context because like we were all part of Discord CXC for the 2 years that we had it. All four of us were involved in it both years. And out of the first year, like we all, I think, became really good friends, mostly from those game shows. Like I think that's like where we first really connected. And then just like seeing that there was downtime between stuff, and we would use like the voice channels to just hang out with one another, because it had been so isolating and we hadn't gotten to talk to other people. We hadn't gotten to like interact with other cartoonists and like people who feel the same way and the same kind of excitement as we do about making art. And so we would just hang out and just like exist in the same space as one another, which at the time was more needed than anything. Like the face-to-face interaction didn't matter as much, so long as like we had the ability to exist with other human beings. And out of that, like after the show was over the first year, we were all like, we don't want to stop and we need to like stay in touch. We need to be able to keep talking to each other. And we all struggle with like object permanence very, very badly. If it is not directly in front of me, it does not exist. So I made this separate server after CXC was over that was just dedicated to cartoonists hanging out with one another and getting to talk about comics in your own time whenever you're available. Like, it's called Comics because I couldn't think of anything, and just saying that was very funny to me, and then it never changed. And like we all together like created this community where we could all hang out in one place. We tried to schedule once a month having draw times together, where it was just come and exist and no pressure to do anything. We're just here to be together. And like it has become this community where like it's not like Facebook, where if you're not active on it, you're gonna miss stuff. Like there are different areas for you to interact with other people, and you come and go as you please, and you can catch up on chats. You can interact with as many people as you want. Like I think we have something like 150 people that are a part of this,
Wow.
roughly. And like not all of them are active. We all have jobs. We all have, you know, people to take care of and things to do. But it's awesome when events like this are over, and I feel like I am going to lose those interactions, that I have this little space that exists on my phone that I can go to and just be like, hey guys, did you know that comics are great? And then I have like 50 people rain in on me like, oh my God, comics are amazing. Like,
So I would hear from
true.
Susie, how do you manage this?
Right. So I have a lot of hobbies and interests, and comics are one of them. But I always leave an event like CXC just ready to go, ready to make comics. And a week later, I'm like, got other stuff to do.
the high fades.
Yeah, the high fades. So that being said, I was really interested after that first online convention to be part of an online group of other comics creators, because I had so much more to learn. And I loved their energy. And I felt like if I could just like keep a little bit of that, sure, the high would fade, but I'd maybe have a little more consistency. And that ended up being true. And I've learned so much from the people sitting next to me. But it also, you know, it's a feedback. So when I was in the first CXC in 2020, or the first online one, I was really quiet. I just kind of like watched things happen. And in 2021, I was suddenly part of this crew and like joined in, like, oh yeah, cheering everyone on and being like a celebrator for all these people who are presenting their comics during the exhibitor panels, which were, you know, unique to the online event and don't exist this year because you can go around the tables. But it's definitely a different interaction, because you don't get that presentation of the artist saying, this is my work, this is the effort I put into it, look at everything I've done, and them having the spotlight. So being able to, you know, be cheered on and cheer others on, it just like generates energy that helps everyone make comics and feel like, you know, the time that they've invested is really worth it.
That's what I'm hearing in there is, because I thought you were going to head for like accountability, like I'm accountable to this group, but instead it feels more like there's like this cycle of feedback loop that happens that doesn't happen when you work on your own, and is really difficult to spin up when you're standing at a table in like a trade show style event, right?
Yeah.
Brandon, how do you manage your time and find the time to interact with and keep going with this community? Oh,
Brandon,
oh,
there you are.
okay, we hear you.
Oh, okay. So like a lot of things I want to pick out from what has been said previously that I think is really, really important is the fact that this is a pretty like pressure-free environment, right? And it's not about keeping each other accountable to our stuff because we can all trust each other and invite that trust into ourselves that we are gonna like come together when we need to and like do all the things that we need to do as far as like our own individual like comics paths go. But then the other thing is being a celebrator, right? That was what Susie just said. And sort of carrying that energy that no matter how far each of us gets or like how separate something might be or like how much time it takes because comics just take a lot of time. And like any progress can be like any progress in your own path can like take you away from stuff. But for this community, it just never really feels like that distance is real or that distance is permanent, right? Like this is something that we can always come back to, and always something that we can just keep going. And I think a lot of that has to do with having that sense of openness, and a lot of what that is, I think, especially with Connie and Rodrigo and the energy that they brought both to the CXC Discord and into the Comics is that base intention of friendship, right? So like if I were to ask any of these people like, hey, like you mind promoting my stuff? Like I know that they would say yes, but like that's because we actually friends and like we actually like care about each other. It's not just a business minded thing or a pragmatic thing. There is a genuine care. So as far as like how I manage all of this with my own time, like we are all, especially recently, I feel like we are all very busy with our own stuff. And we just keep we just keep that space open is essentially what it is. Like I don't think it's anything fairly complicated or complex. I just think that having a space there where it's more vibrant and more open is really the key for me.
I'm reminded of, I do a little sort of intro to my comics classes for kids, and I show a series of pictures of me with very famous cartoonists, like just hanging out, being friends. And the kids all gasp, like, you know them? You know that person? And I'm like, yeah, the world's really small. We all know each other. That's not the point that I know famous people. We all know each other. So there's a really practical reason to be a kind and open person, because that means more people are going to actually want to work with you, right? And so, I use that as a teachable moment to like, let's shift the focus away from these are famous people to we're all in community and we're responsible for one another, Okay, so I want to move on to talking about tidbits, because that was another outgrowth of this community. So, but I'm going to turn it back over to you all for a second, to everybody who is, sitting facing this way. And I'm going to ask you a question. I'll actually put it up on the screen so to make it easy. Let's see if I can get to it. What does successful collaboration look like to you? What do you imagine? What images come into your mind? We'll do 2 minutes for us all to think about it on the Discord as well. Please think about and discuss what successful collaboration looks like. What is happening when people are successfully collaborating? Go.
A goal is nice.
The product is made without flaws or without flavor.
Yes. I think it's like
Baby.
a set amount of
I just look in the mirror
like
and
for certain achievements.
I where you can bring out the best in each other and you can make it something better that maybe you couldn't have done on your own.
Able to do that.
Yeah, I
And
think
like contribution, not like
Um,
every like high school and college group project where like one person comes in doing all of it
Yeah,
and
that's-
everybody else. Yeah.
Another
You know,
part
it's
by
you
collaboration
where it's like
Mhm.
you all
and conflict.
potential.
Yeah, like elevate everyone's strengths.
Yeah.
Yeah, like each one of
Yes,
us
people are
like,
actually taking care of
separately will go just to this high, but together we go a bit little bit higher.
Yeah, like it's something bigger than the sum of its parts.
I would also like looking out for what Rick said when I was sharing. I don't want Rick to be like. Not taking
Is there a down? Sure. Is
Yeah.
that about community?
This is the previous question.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but I think that the idea is the same.
It also applies to this.
Yes. Right? So what if we keep talking?
About 15 more seconds.
Never actually just whatever. You know? And then.
Yeah.
Okay, that's time. So now
Exactly.
let's go to talk about this thing that came out of, when CXC ended, the Discord was sort of deactivated or just like turned off. And so you all said, we're not done.
But wait, there's more.
And then you went and formed your own Discord server called Comics. And then the second year, you came back to CXC with this project called Tidbits. So who wants to talk about what Tidbits is?
I think Susie should, because that was kind of like your brainchild in a lot of ways.
Was it?
I think you had a lot to do
Okay.
with the creation of it.
I mean, I think Candy was really the one who headed it up. Candy is another person who's involved in the Discord. But during the initial few months of the creation of Comics, I was always asking like questions about this or that, asking about craft, technicalities. And I was learning so much, and we ended up doing not only draw nights, but like learn nights together where we draw and like someone would present something like inking. And we would just learn from each other and create together. And we thought, wouldn't it be awesome if we used our experiences to create something that we could share back to CXC and say, we owe ourselves, I guess, to CXC for existing. And what a great way to express that. So what happened is we just said, volunteer if you want, make a little zine, 2 to 3 pages. We'll throw it together and hawk it at the show. And it was really awesome to see people show up. Some, had been pretty active, others hadn't. And we centered it around a specific theme. So the first year was food, because during those draw nights, we were, sharing experiences, talking about food a lot. A lot of people were international, so we were talking about, what's common in your country to eat and this or that. And food is so universal. So we put that as our first scene, and we said, you know what? We want to make this something that gives back to the community again. So instead of selling for profit, we said all money earned from the zine goes to a nonprofit in Columbus. And so that first year we chose a food pantry located in this area. And this year it's about music. So we chose a nonprofit that's music centered, also located in Columbus. And this one serves children who are ill and hospitalized, and people bring music to them when they're most in need. So we wanted our community to spill out and show love to others.
Yeah, can I add a little bit on that?
Yeah, please.
Well, so so coming up with the Tidbits anthology, here's the second one, which we printed for our in-person show. The first one, we only did it digitally because it was still online for CXC 2021. But one thing is that it was super fun that we chose a theme that is so broad that everyone's experience is different. So for food, there were comics about like very personal memories, or just like this is food that I really like, or comics that were straight out just a recipe for something. So it was really nice to see everyone's experience being different, and just everyone had something new and original to put on the table. And also that what has felt different between this and, I don't know, other anthologies I've been to at least, is that we helped each other. Since we were collaborating, we helped each other every step of the way. So we will meet on our Discord draw nights and be like, okay, I have this idea, but I'm not exactly sure how to do it. And we will show like, these are my thumbnails, or these are my pencils, and oh, maybe you can do this, maybe you can switch this to that side, or this balloon could read better if you put it like on the left instead of the right, etc. So it's not like we just said, oh, make some comics, send them to us and we'll assemble it, but we actually had several meetings in which we will share the entire process, from the idea to the layouts to the pencils to the inks to the final thing. And then we will just learn a lot of new stuff from each other along the whole thing, which was several months because we had other things to do. So we gave each other ample time. And yeah, we also had to give that one to Candy. She was the best. She like made a spreadsheet for everyone and a Google Drive folder. Like, these are the dates of the meetings. These are your deadlines, blah, blah, blah. Because otherwise, like, we don't have object permanence, as Aaron said. We would have forgotten. So it's amazing that it actually got done all the way through the end. Twice. Hopefully more to come. But yeah.
Brandon, I'd like to hear what your experience was like collaborating with everybody on the Tidbit scene.
And as like a web cartoonist, I typically don't have an editor or any type of like consistent thing like that. Like, I have friends that I talk to like, hey, does this panel work? But it was really interesting and really enriching because, the group sort of became like everybody's editor, you know what I mean? So a lot of our conversations, and it wasn't like, you could do this to make this better or worse. Like a lot of the conversation was about, you can shift it this way to better express what your actual intention is. And it wasn't necessarily about having the comics fit together. There was a lot of variance and a lot of different interesting things that came about that. And like once more, shout outs to Candy, because they really got us in shape and was sort of like the core in terms of us actually getting this done and getting it out and like having it in on time. And yeah, so a lot of that experience for me was it was very welcoming and very encouraging. There was never a point where I felt like I didn't belong. And, I can't speak for everyone in the community, but like, I have never noticed anyone carrying that type of feeling. Regardless of the content that they bring, the story that they wanted to tell, regardless of skill level, regardless of all of that stuff, it is always this warm feeling and this warm intention of like, I want you to succeed, and I want you to make the comic that you want to make. And this second zine was slightly more haphazard, just because we all are very busy and we all have a whole lot to do. But that feeling's still there. Like that hasn't changed. It's still a very welcoming thing. It's still very warm, and I still genuinely believe that we all still want what's best for each other, both in terms of like our comics careers and just like life in general.
I just feel like what you're describing, especially in the last, I want to say 6 or 7 years, this sounds like a fairy tale. This doesn't sound real to me, and And I have a zillion more questions I can ask, but I do want to honor your curiosity. So if there's any questions that have occurred to you, both through the discussions you've been having or listening to the panel today, I'd like to open up for questions. If you'd rather not, I can still keep pelting them with thoughts. But yeah, any thoughts, questions, or even wondering. See, here's the other thing. I don't like the word question because it tends to carry a lot of dread in it. I got to ask them good questions so they think I'm smart. What are you wondering about? Right? Anything you're wondering about based on this, the topic today, or what these folks have done together?
What's like the international comics like? So you're from like different parts of the world. Like, was like being here like that shock you, or is it like, oh, like you've seen everything?
Let me repeat the question for the recording. So yes, what is it like? What is it like to be Connie and Rodrigo traveling halfway across the globe, if I'm getting your question right, and experiencing, this comic scene and broadly the international comic scene? Like, what does it feel like to be you about that?
Ooh, good question.
Yeah. Well, to me, I love coming here. Like, this is my favorite show. We've done, like, me and Connie, we've done other shows. We've been on SPX, we've been on
We went to
TCAF, but I think that this one has a lot of educational goal included on the show itself, and I think that's one of the things that drives me to come into this place, right? Like, the first time I came here, Connie wasn't here. I came and I would talk with, I don't know, like Ivan Dorkin or the guests, and they will be like super welcoming, and you can talk to them. Like, this one time I went to New York Comic Con, and it's impossible to talk with anyone there for more than 5 minutes because it's too busy. The goal itself is you gotta sell enough of everything. And right here, like, there's still that selling goal, but it's also like taken in the same way with I gotta talk with other creators and share what I know so they can share what they know, and that way we all like grow together,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, we've commented many times that CXC, what makes it special is that a lot of it feels more like a conference than a convention.
Yes.
So with all the talks, especially during the week, everything happening at the Billy Ireland, it just feels like we're here to learn and to share what we know about like the craft of making comics, which is very significant to us. And it's very enriching. Like, we leave and we're like, okay, I can like hold this feeling in my heart for a whole year until we come back. The logistics though of coming from far away are hard. It involves a lot of money on plane tickets, managing inventory, super hard. Thankfully, my best friend lives here in the United States, and she handles my books for me because shipping them will be hell from so far away. So there's that, but it is hard. It is a struggle, and we can only make like one show a year because it's like this huge thing that we have to plan for. But it's super worth it, just for like the feeling that we are actually making comics with other people. And that is actually something that was really interesting to us when we had these online conventions, because when it was online, we have like this gap from people who are like more local, I guess, or like just across the United States where it's not that far. We kind of closed that gap because we were all doing the online thing.
Yeah.
And that was
that
was exciting.
We were all on the same on the same place right then.
Yeah.
Instead of being like, we are the Chilean guys. We don't know that many people. There's groups of people here that they already know each other, so they have an easier time having like a friendship relationship, right? We are very very outspoken when we have to talk, but we're also like very shy, and a bunch of we are introverts, right?
Like everyone in comics.
Like most people in comics, right? But yeah, so we're very very much introverted, and these kind of shows sometimes you tend to shut up shut in. That's the word, right?
Yeah.
You got there.
Yes.
Yeah, no, because I never shut up. So you tend to, you tend to get to feel a little bit smaller, and you're like, oh my God, that's Jeff Smith. Oh my God, that's Nate Powell. How am I gonna be able to talk with those people, right?
I'm so shy. I'm so baby.
I'm so shy, I'm so very. But there's a very welcoming environment on this convention, and the digital ones, they set everyone basically on the same place.
Yeah.
Because as soon as someone posts something on the general chat, anyone can answer, and if you have a question, anyone can make that question, and it doesn't require you to like get out from your shell to be a part of something.
It's a different way of interacting.
Yes.
And what I'm also, I mean, if I can piggyback on that, what I'm thinking of as you're describing like closing that gap
Yes.
is accessibility.
Yes.
I mean, we're all sitting here with masks on, right? And that's an acknowledgement that it's still not perfectly safe to be in the world. And I think of immunocompromised people, I think of homebound people. They were able to interact with the festival in a way that they just can't.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I think that's something that whether you were like doing it on purpose or intuiting it, you all brought this energy of inclusivity and accessibility to the presence on the Discord.
Well, it is 2022 now, so we better start catching up with that, right?
It's about that
what the hell?
time.
I
Yeah.
think there is also something that is hugely beneficial by having this like year-round Discord server for like how many people are international. Like it's a place where we can go that time zone doesn't really matter
Oh,
because like there are a lot of people who are in different time zones, and I think like one of the biggest time zone differences is around 8 hours. So like being able to match up our schedules to like do a show like this would be very, very difficult. But having a server that's accessible 24/7, you post at 3 p.m. your time and I post at 9 p.m. my time, and like we'll still all come back to it the next day. And the conversation doesn't have to end. It picks up at a later time when it's convenient for us personally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even if it's like within the United States, like there's a bunch of people that I've never met in person on the comics Discord, but I enjoy very much what they do and what they share, and like I don't know, like I've never got the pleasure to meet Brandon in person in the same way that I did. We've probably seen each other before because you're from the area, right?
Yeah.
Or like I don't know, like the people around the show. But there's many more people from different places in the United States that for live stuff, it will be already like impossible, to be like, yeah, I'm gonna go to Columbus for a week and just hang out there and leave their work and leave everything that they're doing just to go to a comic show.
Yeah, it's a lot of effort.
It's
Like,
a lot of
time, money,
effort.
effort.
Yeah, for example, like right below we have Axe and Brit, and they've both been very active on the Discord, and I have no clue where Brit is, but I know that Axe is on the UK.
Yeah, Axe is Scotland, maybe?
I think.
Or
I'm
Ireland?
sorry.
Sorry, Axe. I just know you're very far away.
I just know you have like an 8-hour difference with us.
Or the previous scene that was edited by Candy, and Candy is from Brazil,
Yeah.
and she was a volunteer for the first digital CXC.
yeah.
Mhm.
That's how we met. That's how we met them. And she had this dream, like she wanted to be in comics,
Mhm.
and at that convention she will be asking around people like, "What do you do?" and can I do that too? Like she will ask about flatting.
Yeah,
I don't know if you remember,
yeah,
but
yeah.
she will go into the Discord and be and ask about flatting or what
Yeah.
kind of other jobs there are, because she didn't feel like she was able to draw or write.
Yeah. And then they found editing.
Then
like
they
they
found-
talked to a couple different people about like what it is to be a comics editor, and was like, this is it. This is the thing that I want. And then they were like, I'm gonna do it. And they put together the first tidbits.
Yeah.
And we were all like, Candy, you are a god.
Yeah, and
Candy's
Candy
the
set the
best.
template for the next one, which Susie luckily like took charge of that area and worked perfectly. Like it's been like a shared leadership that's been happening, and it's been great because it's basically worldwide.
Yeah.
It comes from every
Yeah.
place.
And that was actually one of the things that was difficult when we were doing tidbits was like it was going to cost money. We knew that, but we wanted that money to go into a donation. But the problem was like we all have different currencies. We all have different like trying to figure out what currency should this be bought in? Does it go into a bank account? How does like who has control of that? We're all from different countries. And then we were just like, screw it. All of this is gonna go like directly to the nonprofit. Like we're no middleman, just like
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
that's
we just
great.
put the link of the nonprofit, just give the money to them,
Yeah.
then download our PDF.
Yeah.
Okay, we got time for maybe one more thought, question, or one. Oh, we don't? Are we
Oh,
done?
no.
There's
We-
another panel coming in.
Oh.
Waiting.
Okay, well.
We can be at that panel too.
You can always invite us.
There's also a 5-panel elsewhere, and I have to steal your lines.
All right,
Okay.
so everybody, Tidbits is available at what table?
17, right by the entrance.
We
on the
have
right.
a few copies left, like
Yeah.
4 or something.
Oh
you
my
can,
God.
4 or
You
5.
can also get it digitally
Yeah.
by going to tidbitzine.com,
Yes.
where you can also find the first one.
Yes.
And you can also find a link to the Discord.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Join
It's
us.
all on the website, tbitsin.com.
There's
Brandon,
also, like,
Susie, Aaron, Connie, Rodrigo, thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thank
Jersey.
you, Jersey. Thanks for coming.
All right, Brandon, we gotta go. Thanks, man.